Have you ever heard of a walk-in soul before?
In 2019, the soul that I was incarnated with walked out. In its place, a new soul walked in. It was radically...
Do something with it.
It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me always. Money coming in all day. Money coming in all pay. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me frequently. Money coming in to be with me. Money coming in secretly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just money coming to me easily. Money coming in and needing me. Money coming in repeatedly. Money coming, it's just money coming. It's just...
Have you ever heard of a walk-in soul before? When I first started researching this, it tripped me out. But I think what tripped me out the most is how many people said they feel like they are walk-in souls. Anybody who's not familiar with a walk-in soul, is basically when your original soul walks out and another soul walks in. Down below it says, some believe it is possible for a person's original soul to leave their body and for a new soul to walk in. It has been said that souls walk in during period of extreme stress or trauma, or during a period of intense personal problems. Occasionally, other walk-ins claim their entry was made following an agreement with the previous soul. It's like the original soul is like, I'm ready for a break or an upgrade. A new soul that walks in could be from a different dimension or a higher plane. This could have even been arranged in the spiritual realm beforehand. It's probably an agreement somewhere in the spiritual realm like, okay, you did your thing, it's time for me to take over. And the old soul like, okay, bet, I'm tired anyway. You ever ran into somebody that you know and they act, completely different from what you've known them to act like? And I don't mean in the sense of like a glow up. This person has done a total 360. That could be a walk-in soul. Not always the case, but I'm just saying. A lot of times after people's trauma, you will see this kind of glow up. And remember, I talked to y'all before about those cord cutting rituals. So when you say things like, I don't even want to do this no more, I don't want to be here no more, that could be you making an agreement with another soul to step in. But we got to be real mindful of our words. I'm just curious though, do you feel like a walk-in soul, or do you know somebody who you feel like is a walk-in soul? I know for me, a few people come to mind. But there is a big difference in somebody having a glow up and a walk-in soul. So let me know y'all thoughts. Peace, love, and light, and gratitude for watching.
In 2019, the soul that I was incarnated with walked out. In its place, a new soul walked in. It was radically different to the soul that I incarnated with. In fact, so many aspects of my life changed, much for the better, but I had to up-level, shift super quick to level up to what was coming in. My intuitive connection, my psychic abilities, my ability to connect to anything and everything, wow, shot up big time. As did my income, as did my business, as did my reach, because I became fully in my power with what I understood to be true. And I was able to reach more people than I've ever done before. This soul that's walked in, it's not taking any crap. It's ready to do the work. My soul that I was born with decided that it had had its lessons and it was done. I tried to commit suicide 3 times, and that's normally a sign when you're trying to get out, that the soul is at the end of its life and another walk-in will come in because your journey as a human is not done. There are many, many souls waiting to incarnate into this lifetime, into this great period of change and excitement. So if you're living right now, you're part of this massive change, and your soul has chosen to take that mission. And often souls that come in don't want to be born and have the formative years. They want to come in and hit the ground running, and that's exactly what my walk-in did. So on the day of the days leading up to my walk-in, actually it was a few months, I noticed a shift in how I was feeling. I was beginning to feel very disassociated with my body. I kept shifting, I couldn't ground. I was having suicidal thoughts. I didn't actually want to commit suicide this time, by the way, but I felt like time was running out. I felt like this was it. I felt like I had nothing more to give. And I remember having a shower and thinking, am I supposed to kill myself? Am I supposed to take this life and jump back into another incarnation? And I felt really, really low. And actually, that's not what I wanted to do at all. What was happening was my soul was getting ready to leave. So to some degree, I was grieving. I was seeing it off. I was like, there's a part of me that's going, that's dying. So I wasn't about to commit suicide, but I was about to go through a radical change, and I had no idea what that would feel like. And I didn't even know it was a walk-in. I didn't know it was a walk-in until it actually happened. To hear more about this, jump on to part 2. Soul walk-ins, walk-outs, part 2. So I was in the shower, thought I had to give my life up, clearly didn't. What was going on was I was grieving the part of me that was leaving. And then as that soul was leaving, I actually felt the presence of the new soul. The new soul was huge. It was really big. It was assertive. It was slightly frightening to view her because she had such strength, and she was very in her masculine energy when she entered into my space, and I could feel her be part of me. I worked with another healer to hold space for me to allow this soul to integrate. And it was a really interesting experience because it felt very uncomfortable for about 5 or 6 days before it started to change into who I was. And by that, I mean the soul personality was changing my human personality. What I forgot to mention prior is this was all triggered by an assault, because I was actually assaulted in 2019. And that's when I began to feel really, really low. Now, I call these spiritual slaps in the face because it means that when something big like that happens, there's an awakening that's going to follow. So once the walk-in integrated, I noticed there was a change in my personality. I noticed I was far more direct than I'd ever been. I could tolerate less. My work ethic shot up. My trust and faith in energy just shot up as well. I was really not concerned about how I was going to make money, what was coming in for me, how big my channeler got, who I was channeling. None of that bothered me at all. And then in 2020, in lockdown 1, I channeled the energy of COVID. If you'd like to see that video, head over to my YouTube channel, and my channel is called Yasmin Ibrahim Intuitive Channel. You will find that video there. It's got about 30,000 hits. Might be small fry to some people, but it was a big deal for me because it got me the exposure I needed to start teaching people to speak to their soul. Why would you want to speak to your soul? Because if you understand what your soul is here to do with you, that what it's planned for you, how you get in line with that, everything becomes a lot simpler. I'm going to do another video about soul embodiment and what happens when you find out your soul's plan and start living it. But in the meantime, let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced a walk-in.
There are 3 main types of walk-ins, type 1, 2, and 3. Which one are you? I'll describe them to you. If you don't fall into these 3, then you're number 4, which is, well, it's unlikely, but you probably know people in type 4. So let me start. Type 1 is the OG walk-in. This is where one soul leaves, one soul exits the building, as in leaves the body, and another soul comes in. This normally takes place in a traumatic injury, an accident, something that occurs to dislodge the soul from the body. This normally occurs because the soul is looking at the trajectory for the life and they're going, it's not working out the way I wanted to. It's not going according to plan. I'm not going to learn what I came here to learn, so I'm going to exit right now. But real estate is in demand on the planet right now, meaning bodies, because there are so many souls waiting to participate. In our ascension process, where we are right now is on the brink of a shift in consciousness that ripples not just throughout our planet, but throughout the cosmos. We're doing something so important. We're collapsing the false matrix, and there are queues of people trying to get in. So when one soul decides to leave the body, it creates room for another to come in. The person who experiences a type 1 walk-in though, they will feel like a whole new person. They will not be able to relate to, often don't have memory of who they were before. Their friends, their family are going to say, you are not the same person. You have the same face, same body, same name. You are no ways the same human being. Your taste in food is different. The things you want, the things you like, the things you agree with and disagree with, absolutely different in a type 1 walk-in. A lot of people refer to walk-ins as if it's one thing, but let's talk about category 2, which I think is where most people are actually going to find themselves. Now that is a type 2 walk-in. That's where we've got the same soul, not a different one, the same soul coming in more directly. It's kind of like you're coming more online, you're being activated. The result of this is that you're going to feel like your spiritual awakening, your growing, your learning, your healing is never ending, because it's not, because so much of your own soul is coming back online, discharging the ego, the false self, the old programs of the false matrix. As this occurs, the type 2 walk-in becomes more spiritually awakened, more conscious. They're going to feel like, I'm a different person, but not totally different. I'm a higher version of the original person. That's the type 2. Does that sound like you? Let me know in the comments below. Here's number 3. This is a wild and wacky one. I told you it was a wild and wacky one. There it is. That is type 3. Type 3 is where you've really got two souls that are coming into the same body. So this is called a soul merge. And what's happening here is one soul has called for reinforcement, or has something to work on with a second soul, and they've chosen to do it in one body. The person who experiences the soul merge or the type 3 walk-in, they really feel like they're a yo-yo. They really feel like, who am I today and who am I tomorrow and who am I this afternoon? It's going to be totally different people, because there's elements and aspects of each soul that are going to show up in them at different times. They really don't have a solid sense of self. They really feel like they're wavering, almost like they're chameleons, and they're trying to make sense of themselves and why they act so distinctly different in different situations. Remember what I said about type 4, that this is a category all unto itself. But it's such an interesting one, because now we have to talk about NPCs. What's an NPC? Stands for non-playable character. And it's essentially the background people. So the terminology comes from video games, where you've got a main character who is you. The whole game revolves around you. But then there's all the background people that seem to just fill up space. Those are the NPCs. NPCs is a little bit of a label that we've put on unconscious people, or people who we think of as so disconnected from life force, from soul, that they are just a background character. There's like not a real person in there. Here's the thing about NPCs. If you and I could come to planet Earth 2 or 3 lifetimes ago, we would have looked at the populace and said, oh my God, everyone's an NPC. What's going on here? The reason we would have said that is because we were born to a false matrix, you guys. Even in this lifetime, we were still born to the false matrix. We're transcending it now. That's what this is all about. But being born to the false matrix meant that we were born without the connection to our soul intact. That's why it's coming online through the various walk-ins. So an NPC is basically a body that hasn't yet undergone a walk-in. It's probable that it's going to be a type 2 walk-in, but we don't know that for sure until the person awakens. So the type 4 person, they're blocked. The soul is there. It's just blocked from entering the body. They're going to feel like the only thing that they can do in their life is react, like a knee-jerk response. They're shown something on the news, knee-jerk response to what they're shown. If ever you've wondered, why are some people so programmable? This is it. It's because they're type 4. Soul hasn't yet come online, so they're still living in such an unplugged state. This is the best that they can do for right now. It doesn't make them bad, doesn't make them wrong. It's simply where they are. So now you've heard all 4. Let me know which one you are.
Have you guys ever heard of a walk-in soul? And if you are not into the spiritual woo-woo, just keep scrolling. This is not for you. So I have heard of the concept of a walk-in soul before, but I've never really tapped into it properly. Like, I knew what it was and that, but I'm reading this book on Marconics, and they just really tapped into what happens and why it happens, and I'm finding it so interesting. So a walk-in soul is a soul that takes over another body partway through its life. So say you had a near-death experience and your soul was ready to leave, another soul could come in and take over. Someone will have a brain injury, for example, and they would have loved playing piano. And then after the brain injury and they're healed, they never touch it again. And it's because it's a new soul that's entered the body. So while the soul is still part of the same soul family, soul cluster, really, really close and loved by the souls around it, it's a new soul that's come in. And you can see here, it says that when a soul's tasks are complete, they don't really need to hang around, so they can leave and a new soul can take over. Or if the new soul comes in, it might be because they didn't need to experience childhood and that part of the life, like a human life. And so when that part is done, they have an agreement where the soul who lived that portion will leave and then they'll come in to be able to do their work. Have you guys ever experienced this at all or know someone that it's happened to, or is it resonating? Because for me, this is so interesting and it makes so much sense.
What is a walk-in soul? A body and a soul have a moment where the soul is done. It is its time to go to the heavens, but the human body still has life in it and another soul jumps in. Why would a soul take over a body? Well, they're getting to jump in and bypass time that it takes to like grow up and mature. How this would be perceived by the people who loved that person is it's going to feel like a completely different person. Their interests are going to change, their food habits, their sleeping habits, what they want to do in the day. There have been reports of people's like accents changing. Someone hasn't ate meat in 20 years and they all of a sudden start eating meat again. This is usually a really emotional time for the family because this human body has the human memories. They know what happened, but they don't have the emotional connection to the memories. The emotional connection goes with the soul. Family's going to be grieving that their loved one is gone, even though the body is still here.